The Tampa Bay Lightning are set for another home matchup against a team with Blues in their title, this time the St. Louis Blues. But they may go without Anthony Cirelli and JJ Moser. Who is going to step up in their absence? And will Jake Guentzel continue his league-best 7-game goal streak?
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Josh Sperber here to welcome you into Locked On Lightning, and thank you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if your team is the Tampa Bay Lightning, then this is the show for you. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And let us get started by talking about tomorrow's game, Lightning against St. Louis, for the first time in the month of December and second time this season. Last time out was in St. Louis back on November the 5th, a 3-2 win for the St. Louis Blues. It was the win for Jordan Binnington that moved him into second on the Blues wins list. He now leads that list. Nick Perbix and Victor Hedman got some goals in, but that wouldn't be enough for the Lightning. They did, however, win more faceoffs than St. Louis and record 10 fewer giveaways, but it was the Blues who made the more of their even 23 scoring chances, scoring on 2 of 12 shots in the second period to create some distance between themselves in the Lightning. But now the Lightning are going up against St. Louis again, and for the most part this season, when they have seen a repeat foe, it has worked out better, or in certain cases, just as well the second time. That was the case with the New Jersey Devils, 2 wins against them so far, 2 wins against the Avalanche. After losing to Columbus in a big way in November, the Lightning came back home and beat them 5-3. The only teams that the Lightning have seen multiple times and not beaten at least once, the Minnesota Wild and the Toronto Maple Leafs. They have beaten the Canucks twice and the Predators twice. So the Lightning are at the point of the schedule where you're going to start seeing some repeat teams, but I think it's definitely a bigger advantage for the Lightning this time around to be playing at home. I think the whole team talked about just how big that home crowd is. Jonas Johansson was discussing it after practice, and the Lightning, continue to prove themselves to be one of the best home teams in the NHL. This season, they are 9-4-1 at home. Still pretty even, but, in front of the great fan base that the Lightning have, it just makes things easier. The potential drawback, though, Anthony Cirelli was not in practice today. Neither was JJ Moser. The good news on that potential front with Cirelli, Moser is considered week to week, unlikely to play in the 2 home games coming between now and Sunday. So, unfortunately, I wouldn't expect Moser back for the home and home against the Panthers, but that Rangers game, I think, is a hopeful return for JJ Moser. But the actual good news in this was that Anthony Cirelli, despite not practicing, was apparently not practicing due to a body maintenance day. So it doesn't give us too much more insight on the potential severity of Cirelli's supposed injury, but having him miss practice for a body maintenance day rather than an injury does definitely sound better. It definitely does sound better. So hopefully that means Cirelli will be ready for tomorrow's game. If not, it looks like Connor Geekie will be the center next to Brandon Hagel, and the right wing will be Cam Atkinson. That would be the projected second line if Cirelli is unable to go. Defensively, the lines remained exactly the same as they did in the last game. Darren Raddysh and Victor Hedman, Eric Chernak and Ryan McDonough as usual, and Nick Perbix and Emil Lilleberg as usual as well. The defense played really smart. So other than that third period, it really did seem like the Lightning were playing their best defensive game of the year. Darren Raddysh, who was on that first line, certainly agreed with that and is hoping that the Lightning can take some of those positives from the first two periods and apply them to their defensive strategy against St. Louis.
Yeah, just take the first two periods, we played that way, and just see the mistakes we made in the third period, and just make sure we're playing a full 60 minutes.
And that is the key right there, playing a full 60 minutes. It's something that you'll hear John Cooper and honestly probably every NHL coach talk about in a post-game press conference, just to play the full game, full energy all the time. Because as I mentioned, that was really what happened against the Blue Jackets. It was the Lightning played a phenomenal first 40-plus minutes. But, they took their foot off the gas a little bit in the third, made some mistakes, and the Blue Jackets took advantage. Obviously, they can't afford to do that against these St. Louis Blues. And if we take a look at the standings, the Blues are still sixth in the Western Conference. They played 3 more games than the Utah Hockey Club and sit even with the Utah Hockey Club on 33 points. But again, the 3 more games drops St. Louis in the standings. And St. Louis is only 3 points behind Colorado. They have played the same amount of games. So these are both teams that are kind of in, sort of in between positions. The Lightning are sort of are kind of getting towards, a chance at the top of the division. Right now, they're in 4th, 1 point behind the Bruins, 4 games in hand. 3 games in hand on the Panthers, 2 on the Maple Leafs, and 4 points behind them. So theoretically, if the Lightning can have a really strong rest of December, they can put themselves in position to jump back into first place. And, beating the Blues, especially when you look at the rest of the games in December, most of those games are at home, which is great for Tampa. But the Blues are probably the most struggling team that they'll face. The Canadiens could certainly be argued are worse, and points-wise, they are 6 fewer. They have 27 and 7th in that Atlantic division. But, hey, that's a divisional battle, which I think brings a little more into it. But also, Patrick Laine coming off of a high hat trick, it could be a very different Montreal Canadiens team with him healthy than it has been over the first couple of games. That's something we'll discuss more after the holiday, but it's still important to just look at the games you have looming on the schedule because, the rest of the holiday, we've got home and home against Florida, the 22nd and 23rd. Then you've got the Rangers coming to town on the 28th before that is at home against Montreal back-to-back on the 29th. And, they get those 4 days off, but then they go back-to-back Rangers and the Canadiens, who I think could be on a hot streak. And the Rangers certainly haven't performed up to expectations. They're coming off of a tough loss to Nashville, but it's still a solid Rangers team. And I think that the Blues are a team that, they've got a solid goalie. They'll make things competitive, but it's still a team that on paper, I think you'd expect the Lightning to beat. And they're in a tough division, and that certainly showed, but the Lightning have had plenty of success against that Western Conference Central Division. They split games against Winnipeg, another example of a game that went much better the second time around against the first. The Wild are the only team, one of 2 teams that have beaten the Bolts twice. They lost to Dallas in a game that they could have won. They've beaten the Abs twice. They've beaten Nashville twice, and now they've got St. Louis. So the Blues in a tough division that the Lightning have had success again. It might not necessarily mean that there is going to be more of that success against St. Louis simply because they're in the same division. But, I got to like the Lightning's chances. Their offense is really humming right now. That first line for the Lightning is the best in the league. I don't think there's any other answer. 7 games with a goal for point, 8 straight games or 7 games with a goal for Guentzel, 8 straight games with at least a point for Kucherov, who got his 8th straight game with a point on an assist to Braden Point and the empty netter that sealed the Lightning's win on Tuesday. Now, Thursday, Lightning have to go and beat the Blues, and I think they're going to start their longest win streak of the season. If they beat St. Louis tonight, which I do think will happen, 3-1 is my prediction in favor of the Lightning. If you have other predictions, feel free to message us at LO_Lightning or in the comment section here below. But I think the Lightning will take a win over the Blues 3-1 and get their first 4-game win streak of the season. And to do that, they'll need to be strong on defense, even without JJ Moser, who is not expected to play in tonight's game. Darren Raddysh did a solid job on line 1 back with the captain, Victor Hedman, and he has to step up without JJ Moser in the Lightning lineup. If you love sports, you're going to love Prize Picks, the best place to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Whether it's hockey, football, or any of your favorite sports, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in on the action. And you can now win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks. Plus, this holiday season, they're giving away $30 million plus in rewards during Pixmas and offering 2 free picks in December. When your picks hit, Prize Picks makes it easy to catch out. You can get your money in as fast as 15 minutes. So download the Prize Picks app today and use the code below, LOCKEDONNHL, to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. The World Series, the Stanley Cup, the Super Bowl. The world's top athletes get to play in these elite sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safe and in your family's end zone. SelectQuote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that typically cost you more and cover you less. With SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents, they will work for you to tailor a life insurance policy to your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. Head to SelectQuote.com and an insurance agent will call you right away with the right policy for your life and your budget. SelectQuote, they shop, you save. So get the right insurance for you for less at SelectQuote.com/LockedOnNHL. Go to SelectQuote.com/LockedOnNHL today to get started. And that is the link below, SelectQuote.com/LockedOnNHL. Back here on Locked On Lightning, and we're going to talk about the defense. The defense took a big hit the other day when JJ Moser left the game early, did not play Tuesday against Columbus, is not expected to play tonight against St. Louis. The lines on defense, as I mentioned earlier, remained unchanged, so it appears that Darren Raddysh will be back playing with Victor Hedman. And it is not new to Raddysh. He has been on the Lightning for a few years now. He was actually an undrafted free agent and has been in the pros with Tampa since 2021. Bounced around a little bit, but has really started to find a home here. So he has played with Hedman before. He's been around the block on the Lightning defense, but he tries not to think of his time on line 1 that will likely be increased over these next couple games as long as Moser is out. He tries not to treat that any differently from being the 7th defender or being on defensive line 2 or 3.
Show what I can do, play the way I know how to play, and take it day by day.
And plain and simple, Raddysh, not a man of many words, but a guy who just knows what he has to focus on. And he is tied for second most points among Lightning defensemen with a goal and 8 assists. And, he's been able to contribute in multiple ways of the game, even on the power play. And that has really increased for the Lightning over the past, couple of games. And I think Raddysh has been a solid part of it, just providing, that extra defense and still a solid offensive ability. But Darren Raddysh actually credited the team chemistry for how strong the power play has been.
I think the chemistry is coming together now, and we're seeing each other better, making better reads.
The way John Cooper described it, the way the Lightning's power play and their chemistry has come together, was like a 16-year-old getting their first driver's license. You're not going to instantly be a good driver. You've got to take some time to, get used to the car, get used to the roads, deal with any distractions that you see, anything like that. And I mean, that's really what it's been for Raddysh and the Bolts this season. There have been plenty of distractions and obstacles and speed bumps in the forms of injuries. And guys have had to step up. And I think Raddysh has certainly done that so far. And honestly, I really like the choice of him on the first line with Victor Hedman. I think that it makes the most sense if you look at the roster for the Lightning. You've got Perbish and Lilleberg, Cernak and McDonough, who have been in a line often. Raddysh has been on that third line with Perbix and with Lilleberg, but he usually ends up being kind of the extra defenseman, kind of the seventh defenseman. And now this gives him a chance to show that he is, I think, one of the better defensemen on this team. And maybe not elite, but, he's a solid guy. I think there's a place for a player like Darren Raddysh on any NHL team. He's a solid defender who can really push the attack, and also, be a physical presence in the defensive zone. Another just steal that the Lightning picked up in free agency a couple years ago, and he has just continued to show his value and his skill to the Lightning team. Last year, he's coming off a season where he played all 82 games, and he played 19 minutes a game. So he might have played more last year than he did this year, but he's got his highest plus-minus ever at +4 through the first 21 games of the season. And, it might not have been Raddysh jumping through hoops or something to get back to this first line, to get back with the captain, with Victor Hedman, who, he really said good things about playing with and just enjoys being on the same team as still. Raddysh has been moved around a lot, but it really doesn't affect his play. He's someone that even he was talking about, he's played on the conventional lines. He's played as the seventh defender, but it doesn't change his preparation. It doesn't change his mentality, his mindset, anything like that. He stays the same player. So he's going to treat this game the same as he would if he was that seventh defender, or if he was, a third line defender or anything like that. But I think it's certainly, it's a testament to what he's meant to this organization over the past couple of years, coming up through the minor league system and playing some games in the NHL and waiting 2 years for his real shot. He got it last year, took it and ran with it. And, now he's an important part of this defensive unit. I think that it's going to stay with the conventional lines. I didn't see too much of Declan Carlisle in practice today. He has been up and down from the AHL. And I mean, that's, I think, just another reason why it's the play of Darren Raddysh has been so impressive. Carlisle was assigned back to Syracuse, called back up, assigned a lot the past couple of days. And that's really what it's been for most of the Lightning's, extra defenders, as it were, the guys who aren't typically on lines. But Raddysh has proven that no matter where they put him, he can play well. He can be a strong defender and continue the Lightning strategy of using their defense to aid the offense and using the defense to kind of force the issue with their opponents on offense. And just it plays into their hand. And I think Raddysh's really solid two-way ability, particularly for a defender, makes him an important part of this team and makes him, honestly, in my opinion, the guy who needs to step up the most when JJ Moser is out. That's the guy who's replacing him on the first line. That's the guy who's got to give the Lightning what Moser typically does when he is in there. And Moser and Hedman has been a really solid combination for the Lightning defense, but so was Moser Raddysh and Hedman in that last game. Maybe it'll create a little job competition, little friendly competition between teammates to just try and get a bigger role. Never hurt anybody. And I think it's certainly good to help push Raddysh, who's on the younger side, and some of the other guys they keep shuffling up and down from the AHL, Perbix, Lilleberg, the whole gang. I think it just helps foster the competition and helps just increase what you get out of these guys. And we know that John Cooper can get the most out of his players. He has certainly done that with Raddysh, and he has also seemingly done that with Jake Guentzel, praising Julian Breesbraw for identifying and acquiring the left winger. Guentzel is currently on an NHL best 7-game goal streak. How much longer do you guys think that will last? Get ready to hit the NHL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NHL, all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. So never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And we are back for one final segment before the Blues game tonight. We talked a bit about this last night, but I mean, it's really easy to talk about Jake Guentzel and just how strong he has been with this Lightning team. I truly believe that he was the best acquisition of the offseason. I don't think the Lightning would be in this good of a place if they hadn't made that deal. He really helped kind of stabilize their lines, and he is on a goal scoring streak that he has never seen before, whether that's games in a row or just over the course of the season. Guentzel currently with 18 goals. His career high is 40, hit twice, and he is on the way to smashing that record and maybe even be in Rocket Richard conversation along with his fellow line mate, Braden Point, who, along with Nikita Kucherov, Guentzel has really enjoyed playing with.
Yeah, those guys are obviously high-end players, top players in the league. So for me, it's been fun. The communication's been there, and it's been very exciting.
And he certainly has. And Guentzel, I think, has started to establish himself as one of the top players in the league. He was kind of an somewhat under-the-radar guy, but, you don't think of a guy who played on 3 teams in 4 years as, usually those guys aren't the elite players. But Guentzel is. He absolutely is. Nick Paul, we talked about yesterday, just his smarts on the show. And that goal scoring isn't even Guentzel's best attribute. He's just so talented and has just such a diverse set of skills that it makes him a really dangerous hockey player. When he scores 7 goals in 7 games, that's hard to stop. And even Guentzel himself is very humble about it. His longest goal scoring streak in the NHL this season. But, he'll tell you that it was just good bounces and good teammates.
Yeah, just pucks just going in the net and playing with good players and just trying to find the open night. So it's been going good, yeah.
So Guentzel, very complimentary of his teammates. Really, pretty much anything you talk about with him, he's going to find a way to use that to complement his teammates. He really seems like he's the ultimate team guy and is such a good fit for what the Lightning are doing here. It allows them to continue to have an elite winger on that first line. And then, because without Guentzel, Hagel would be on line 1, and then you would miss his play with Anthony Cirelli. And that is certainly something that the Lightning have needed over the course of this season. But, they also obviously always need goal scoring. And this season, they've got Guentzel and Braden Point, who are both in the top 10 in the NHL in goals scored. And Guentzel, of course, on this massive hot streak now as well. And I think that this is going to be one of the tougher games to score. He's coming in to a contest against a really solid goalie, a guy who is a franchise leader like Vasilevsky, who will likely be across the ice from him. He may be the best goaltender in Blues history. I don't know as much about the Blues. I can more confidently say that about Vazzy. But the point is, I mean, these are two franchise legends in the Nets. These are two Stanley Cup winning goaltenders in the Nets. I don't think this is the game that Guentzel ends his streak. I think he's going to get another one tonight. One of the games against Florida, though, he's not going to score, whether that's the home game or the road game. It's so difficult to put up big numbers against the same team in such quick succession. And yes, the Panthers are a team that the Lightning have to know very well. And a team that Guentzel has seen in different capacities over the course of his career. And, you know, they're a tough team, and they've got a good player in net, a solid defense, and from not just their defensive players, from their attackers as well. So I think during one of those games is when Guentzel is going to end his goal streak. But I mean, a guy like him, you just never know. He is the kind of player that, you know, he finds a little space on the ice. You give him any sort of eye line on an open shot in net, and that puck is probably going to be going in. He's an elite shooter, a great skater, a great passer as well. I mean, there just are not too many things on offense that Jake Guentzel can't do. And I think combining him with Kucherov and Point can only help his play. It was something that Cooper was talking about. In his case, he was discussing Connor Geekie moving up a line with Cirelli's injury, and you want to surround a rookie with good players and veteran players who know what they're doing. And when it comes to Guentzel, he's certainly a veteran player. He's certainly a great player, and he certainly knows what he's doing on the ice. And with a player like him in his first season, it's about getting more comfortable in this new team, especially for Guentzel, who has played on 3 different teams in the calendar year of 2024. You want to put him on a line where he can succeed and where he can play with other players that are, you know, elite and at similar levels to him. I'm not saying that it wouldn't be the case if he and Hagel switch lines, because you certainly can say the same thing about Cirelli for the way he's played this season. But, you know, Guentzel just seamlessly, it seems, took over that spot on line one that was vacated by a guy who had been here for 15, 16 years. And until Victor Hedman plays 3 more games, is the all-time games leader for the Tampa Bay Lightning. By the way, yesterday was Victor Hedman's birthday, so happy birthday, Cap. But, you know, back to Guentzel, I think he'll score again against St. Louis. I really want to see him, if he's going to break his goal streak, I'd rather him do it on the road. I want to see him keep on scoring at home and just, you know, keep lighting up that crowd that already has taken to Guentzel and already has recognized the legacy that he can leave on the Lightning, and the skill, the elite level of talent that he brings to the Lightning team. So, you know, it's going to be, the Lightning are certainly going to keep on putting him in situations to succeed. That's something that John Cooper does with his players better than maybe any other coach in the league. And he has certainly put Guentzel in maybe the best possible situation. I think just Guentzel on that first line with Kucherov and Point, you've got 3 players in their prime, top of their game, among the top players in the entire league. You know, not too much better of a situation that you can walk into a team on. And even Guentzel himself has said that he's gotten so much more comfortable, partly because of his teammates, partly because of the fans, partly just because, you know, it's good chemistry, and he's playing with some really great players. You know, the Lightning treat their guys well. They have already welcomed in Guentzel as one of their key pieces. Again, like I said yesterday, I don't see franchise player really in his future, because the Lightning already have those guys. They already have that, but he will still be a key part of the Lightning's core going forward. And, you know, the better he plays, I think the more successful the Lightning can be. That first line really, you know, moves the needle for the Lightning with their goal scoring abilities and just their playmaking abilities and, you know, everything. I think we could do a whole show about how good that first line is. And Guentzel is really just kind of the missing piece, just to complete that really strong trio and add to what has been a great duo on the center and right wing with Kucherov and Braden Point. So hopefully we'll see another goal from Jake Guentzel tonight. He will get one of, I predict, 3 goals that the Lightning will score. As I mentioned earlier, 3-1, I think, is going to be the final in the Lightning's favor. If you think differently, if you agree, please leave a comment or hit us up on X at LO_Lightning. But that will do it for today's episode before tonight's game against the St. Louis Blues. Josh Sperber here, thanking all of you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. And on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts, please give us a follow, a like, a subscribe. You feel free to reach out on our X at LO_Lightning if you want any questions, or if you have any questions or just want to talk Bolts. Thank you again for tuning in, and let's hope the Lightning make it 4 straight. Go Bolts and have a great night.